Today we're going to be looking at one of the hottest products of the last couple of years or so, which is the Fujikura VENTUS. Now, from a shaft point of view, this has been one of the most successful launches, the most successful products over the last few years, particularly from a shaft standpoint. It's gained huge traction on tour, huge traction from a retail product point of view, being used in several brands' products. And it's such a recognisable shaft. So it's something that we see week in, week out with the tour players, and now seeing it, we've been fitting with them for a couple of years now. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what makes the VENTUS so good, and then the new model, the TR, that's launched recently, or most recently the black and the red, but what differentiates between the standard VENTUS and the TR, and why one might be better for one feel and player style than another. So the key thing with the VENTUS, I mean, there are only so many ways you can make a shaft bend. So the key thing to improving shaft profiles and technologies is materials. So every now and then a brand will come up with a new product, a new material, a new way of building the shaft that augments performance. So the original Speeder series was the first shaft that had the layers of carbon weaved in different directions. Game changing, and every shaft we now see on our test tracks and in production has that multi-material, multi-layer, multi-directional weave to it because it improves consistency. That is where Fujikura have found a kind of real key product in the VENTUS with the VeloCore. So on the shaft itself, on all of the aftermarket VENTUS shafts, you'll see that little word VeloCore. What the VeloCore is, it's a multi-material bias core. Now, bias core, that's the direction of the layering of the graphite. So graphite that goes into shafts, and all graphite has a weave to it, a direction of weave, and you can layer it directly down the shaft, directly across it, or diagonally. And depending on how you layer it, affects how the shaft bends and where it's stiff and softer. And you can really affect how the shaft feels and loads by what materials you use, where you put them, and the direction of weave. So what the VeloCore, what it ultimately does is it stops the shafts ovaling, and therefore when you stop it ovaling, you reduce some of the twist, you improve the torsional stiffness of the shaft, torsion, the rotational, the resistance to twisting and rotation in the shaft. What that does is that controls the club face better. So when you strike a club head out the middle, there's very little twisting because it's balanced, the head's balanced and stable. If you catch it on the toe or the heel, the head twists. So, a toe strike gears the head that way, a heel strike gears the head that way. The better the shaft can hang on to that club head, the less effect you get of that, and therefore the straighter it goes. And primarily that's what VeloCore did. So what we saw from an energy transfer point of view was slightly better as a result of that. But what they were also able to do was create a great feel through the shaft. You get a sensation of loading and kick and responsiveness. So the blue series, the first one they launched, is it's still a very stable tip designed around low spin, but has a bit of feedback, has a bit of kick. And then after that, it led on to the different profiles, the black being a stiffer profile, a little stiffer in the handle, a little lower, launching a more stout shaft. So players like Graham McDowell, a kind of a quieter swing, were playing the blue, and then you've got Rory playing the black. And so they really geared it at slightly different load patterns and player styles. What then came with the TR, the update of the TR is, what they noticed on tour really was the tour feedback was a lot of players liked the feel of the blue, but wanted more of the flight of the black. So there was a slight kind of gap between the stiffer profile, harder feel of the black with the lower spin, and the softer feel, more responsive, slightly higher flight of the blue, and trying to kind of create an in-between to get the best of both worlds, hence the blue TR, which we have here. Hence this was launched, and so the TR there just designates the difference. And so what the TR series have is they've got what they call a spread toe carbon fibre. Now, spread toe, it's another form of material which is very lightweight and very stable. In order to get the difference, the spread toe is in the mid to handle end. And what that does is it creates a stiffer profile. You can stiffen up the shaft without adding weight by using this material. So it stabilises the top end, reduces that ovaling and twisting and the rotation a little bit more, creates a tighter feel, and just drops that spin and launch in principle a little bit. So for the slightly heavier loaders, someone who who changes direction hard and works a shaft hard, the spread toe in the top half makes it feel like it hangs on a little tighter and gives you a little bit more stability. So just to add on to that, one of the elements that we've seen the VENTUS shafts a lot out in industry, a lot of the stock shafts, the shafts that come with, be it a big brand's driver, aren't necessarily the real deal. So you might be thinking you're getting an aftermarket shaft when you're not. And the real marker of this, I'll use the standard Ventus model, there's one word missing on this shaft. So to all intents and purposes, they look identical, apart from the fact that the one on the bottom doesn't have the word VeloCore on it. And so that's really the thing to be looking for, is if it doesn't have that word on it, it is not the same shaft they're using on tour. It's based around it, but it doesn't have that same critical, material within it that makes it what it is. It's still a well-designed shaft, and the bend profile is still very versatile, but you're not getting the same product. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit a couple with in the blue, the standard Ventus and the TR, tell you what we're feeling, have a little look at the data, and then just summarize the difference. So starting off with the blue, I'll use the two blue series that's closer to what I play. Get a couple of shots with each, and then we'll feed back. So really, it's a very neutral profile, the Ventus. Yes, it's tip stiff, so it's fairly low spin, but it's a fairly mid-launch product, so not overly harsh. So the one thing with the Ventus Blue in particular is, whilst it's stable in the tip, you can really feel that middle section load. As you change direction, you can feel it give you a little bit back, and so hence it's not the kind of shaft that the player's going to feel like you've got to work too hard. I'll do one more with that. So if you've got a little bit of a smoother transition, a smoother change of direction, this shaft's going to feel like it gives you something back. It's still very stable and tight down the bottom end at impact, but and so from a dispersion, a flight point of view, you still get quite a strong flight out of it, but you're not going to feel like you've got to work it hard. So then when we switch over to the TR, generally you're going to get quite a different experience hitting this shaft. So again, the addition of that spread toe material in the mid to handle end, what that does is say it allows you to change direction a little harder, and the principle of it is that the shaft, because it doesn't load and twist quite as much, it hangs on a bit tighter, it's going to feel a little bit more, little stiffer, and for players that like that stability, it's going to potentially feel a little more under control. So let's see how that reacts. So there's a noticeably tighter feel, noticeably firmer feel, particularly where you sense the shaft loading in the blue. The TR, so it really does hold on a little tighter. I didn't quite catch the middle of that. So not too strong a shot, but I'll give it one more. But it certainly feels like you can get after this a little more. So a little bit higher on the face, but so structurally, it's a firmer feel, and you can ramp that up again when you go to the black series. You know, the red's designed with a softer tip, a little more kick, a little more feedback again. Black, stiffer profile, harder feel. So I'm going to go into a summary on the data. I hit a few shots previously just to get a little bit of an average going here. So with the data screen up now, running from the top two of the two blue series, the TR and the standard, and then the lower tier two of the black TR and the black standard. So what we can see across the board is that it's really where the spin, for my swing, and this is really for me, everyone's going to see slightly different data. So what we do see is the spin relative to launch angle for the TR series versus the standard model is a little bit lower. So whilst the top line, the TR blue, 248 on spin, and the blue 2408 on spin, actually the launch angle on the TR blue for me was a little bit higher. So if you proportion the spin down and normalise the launch angle, we'd see the spin on the TR dropping below the blue. So it's still a lower spin flight for me. Similarly with the TR black, 2089 spin, that's the third line down in green, and the standard black and the red at the bottom, we've got 30 revolutions lower spin, 2090 versus 2120. But half a degree more launch angle on the TR. So again, you normalise launch angle down, the spin proportionally drops off a little bit more. So with both series, the shaft's doing what they're designed to do. They're designed to take that spin rate down. for my swing and the way I deliver the club, I happen to launch the TRs a little bit higher. Now that could also be to do a strike point on the head. There are many variables that come into creating those sort of launch profiles, but 100% you get that stiffer feel. And for me, you're also seeing that lower spin. So between the two models, they've created a lot of stability, a lot of consistency, but also a lot of versatility in terms of fitting someone within that range. So you've got now 6 different shafts between red, TR red, blue, TR blue, black, TR black, that you can, in principle, fine-tune a bend profile and a feel that should get relatively, in theory, relatively close to something that performs well. So they've created a very, very versatile set of shafts, and an incredibly high quality one as well. So by adding the TR in, they've taken an incredibly successful line, updated the tech, and created a secondary line that caters for a heavier loader of the shaft, and so it gives a lot of armory to fit someone into when looking at these products. So overall, Fujikura have always been very forward-thinking in terms of their materials and their shaft designs. They've got their own, the enso, which is an incredibly high-speed camera, thousands of frames a second to look at every bit of the shaft and how they bend. So they're always developing materials as all the shaft companies, but developing the materials and developing the profiles so that we have more to offer the player over the period of time. But also, I think what we can see from the Ventus profile, how many of the professionals are playing them on tour. They've had a really strong following there, mainly due to it's ultimately quality materials. And what they've created with the standard and the TR lines for the Ventus range are some tour-proven products, but also products that are particularly relevant across the board for a lot of golfers as well. So anyone interested in trying them out, you know where we are. We have them pretty much all on the wall here across the different weights and ranges. So come and try them out.